If you're like me, Nintendo helped to mold your childhood, so to speak. And if they didn't do that much, then you probably had a Wii. I mean, come on, The Legend of Zelda is my favorite franchise there is. I think it's safe to say that I'm quite a fan. We're all more than a little familiar with Nintendo's mascots. They're famous, they're iconic. So, let me put this as bluntly as possible. Let me rip off the band-aid right now when I say that Nintendo is a bad company. We live in the year 2020 and it's quite a year, and all we really want to do is settle down and enjoy some video games, but Nintendo's making it hard for us to do that much. It's almost like it's the perfect storm, seeing as everyone's been stuck at home and able to waste time and take notice of Nintendo's terrible business practices. And I'm sure that if I looked through every single month this year, I could find at least one terrible thing that Nintendo did, but because I don't have that kind of time, I just want to touch on a few. So now is when I touch on the Wii U, and yes, I promise, this is topical. Just wait, I'll find out. Love or hate the Wii U? It had games, and Nintendo knew this. It didn't sell well for numerous reasons, but not having games wasn't one of them. That's why Nintendo has been releasing Switch ports of Wii U games ever since the Switch was released. The best-selling Switch game there is a port of a Wii U game. We've long gotten past the question of, oh, is there going to be a new Wii U port this year? The question is now always, which game is it going to be this year? Which games is it going to be this year? And, well, in the case of 2020, we got two, those being Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE and Pikmin 3 Deluxe. The important thing to note about both of these games is that they were both priced at $60 US. This is full price for a Nintendo Switch game. Now, I'll admit that I haven't played either of these games, but I do know some things about them. Of course, they are enhanced ports with some sort of added content, but the fact of the matter is that Pikmin 3 is a 7-year-old game, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE is a 5-year-old one. So at the end of the day, given the amount of content that they're actually adding, they actually shouldn't be priced at $60. To put it simply, there's a big difference between adding meaningful content and adding content for the sake of adding content. For instance, if Nintendo wanted to sell me The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD on Switch for $60, and they justified selling it for $60 by, like, adding Link's crossbow training as a bonus, yeah, that's not meaningful content. The story gets worse, though, when you look at how Nintendo tried to artificially inflate the sales of Pikmin 3. Almost immediately after pre-orders for Pikmin 3 Deluxe went up, mysteriously, Pikmin 3 was removed from the Nintendo Wii U eShop, and we all know why. It's because Nintendo wanted to restrict Wii U sales. They wanted all of their sales to go to the Nintendo Switch version. And let's be real, nobody was really going to be buying Pikmin 3 on the Nintendo Wii U 7 years after it released. But it's not about that. It's about Nintendo going out of its way to restrict the option so that all of their sales can go to the Switch version. And this wasn't the only time that Nintendo artificially inflated sales in the year 2020, but we'll get onto that later. The same can be said about Nintendo's absolute refusal to lower the price of Nintendo Switch games even years after release. Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey come to mind as examples of this. Both of them are purchasable, but for $60. Even more than 3 years after their release. But now it's time to talk about the real offender. And he is an offender indeed. 2020 is the 35th anniversary of Super Mario, so needless to say, fans were expecting something. Well, ask and you shall receive.
Since it's a Game & Watch product, It also functions as a clock. And in honor of the game's 35th anniversary, it comes with 35 little touches to discover.
Okay, let's be real. What I'm really here to talk about is Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a collection of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, all packaged on the Switch for $60 in total. And this harkens back to my previous point of Nintendo reselling old games at full price. And yeah, it's different because it's a package of 3 games, but at the same time, we're talking about a game from 2, 3, and 4 generations ago, respectively. The games themselves have minimal improvements at best and are actual downgrades at worst. Super Mario Galaxy in particular has a very strange control scheme, as opposed to the Wii version, and there aren't many options to change it. But none of this stuff is the really bad stuff, no. This is... On March 31st, 2021, Mario will cease to exist. I'm joking, guys. I'm joking, but still. Remember when I was talking about artificially inflating sales? Yeah, well, this blows Pikmin 3 Deluxe out of the water. We're talking about an artificial scarcity like I have never seen. This isn't Nintendo only making a few physical copies of the game. This is Nintendo going out of its way to also limit digital copies, making it so that it's not possible for you to purchase it after March 31st, 2021. I don't think that I have to remind you that we are living in a pandemic, a time where a lot of people simply do not have the money, do not have the funds, the disposable income to be spending it on some Mario game. But Nintendo's backing Mario fans into a corner, and they have to buy this game, or else they won't be able to. And that's just awful. This is Nintendo's true power. The fact that nobody can challenge them. I always say that competition in the games industry is very important. It's paramount that Microsoft and Sony are both dominant, because if one of them is especially dominant, then it will feel like it can do whatever it wants. And that's when they will start doing the worst business practices. Nintendo exists in a realm outside of this, a realm with no competitor. Who does what Nintendo does? Who else is going to be able to deliver on a Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection? No one, except Nintendo, at least not legally. I'd also like to briefly touch on Fire Emblem, a series that personally means a little bit more to me than Mario. Sorry. For the 30th anniversary of Fire Emblem, all that Nintendo's doing is releasing the original Fire Emblem in the West. That's it. That's what they're doing. This is fine, but Nintendo's acting like this is the first time this game has ever been playable in English. That's simply not true. With ROMs, as well as a DS remake of this game has been playable in English for quite some time. It's not the first that Nintendo's advertising it as. On top of the fact that it should essentially just be something that's accessible through NSO, Nintendo is also doing the limited release thing, and that hurts me. Well, you know the drill, guys. Seriously though, what Nintendo is doing with this Fire Emblem re-release really does rub me the wrong way. And yeah, I understand, Fire Emblem fans probably don't deserve as much as Mario fans, but, like, come on. This is not good. But now, it is time for the finale. The final chapter of this terrible year for Nintendo. And for us as Nintendo fans. Personally, Super Smash Bros. Melee is the Smash game that means the least to me, because guess what? It's the Smash game that I've played the least of, and yet, every time I see that intro, it gives me goosebumps, because hey, it is godly. It is one of the greatest things in gaming history, and that's why Melee has stood the test of time. 20 years, in fact. 20 years of people playing this game competitively. They are the lifeblood of the Nintendo fanbase, I tell ya. They are crazy. And now, seeing that we live in a pandemic world, Melee tournaments can no longer be in person, but Melee players, crafty as ever, found a way to play the game online, and this is an accomplishment. Melee players are able to get rollback netcode using a mod called Slippy that is accessible through, yes, Dolphin. And this is honestly incredible. I mean, Slippy was made by one dude. Nintendo was a whole company and they can't get online right. So what did Nintendo do? Well, they cease and desisted one of the largest Slippy tournaments. Yeah, real nice, Nintendo. Real great. I'm not even going to touch on the legal side of things, because any decent lawyer would tell you that Nintendo was actually in the legal wrong. But no, the important thing here is the moral side of things. What Nintendo was doing here is robbing people of their joy. Literally, the only way that Melee players can play with their friends in the midst of this awful, terrible time is through Slippy, through modification. And Nintendo was actively going out of its way to just, destroy this means of playing with people. It's essentially just making it very hard for people to actually find joy at this very difficult time, and that's just disgusting. I don't understand what Nintendo's angle is here. As I said at the beginning of this video, Nintendo helped to mold my childhood, and a lot of my happiest memories genuinely come from their games. So it's really upsetting to see them, if anything, just be a complete and total bully this year. Bullying their consumers, bullying the people who have always been with them. I'm hoping that we can cause enough noise to get Nintendo to listen to us, and to actually help us, to look out for us. But let's be real here, they don't have to. Nintendo is the richest company in all of Japan, and if they want to ignore us, they totally can. I guess I'm holding out for some stroke of humanity, and that's not really anything to hope on, is it? What's making our mission harder is people who feel the need to go out and defend Nintendo. So let me set the record straight. Nintendo is not a person. It is a company, a soulless corporation that wants nothing more than what's inside of your pockets. You may feel an emotional attachment to the company, but at the end of the day, Nintendo will never reciprocate those feelings. So, instead of favoring the company over the people that are hurt by the company's actions, maybe find some humanity within yourself and feel what Melee players feel. Feel what Mario and Fire Emblem fans feel. Feel what I feel.